I've sewn around the outside of the vest, and when you get to the other side, you have to cut your thread because we do not want to sew these shoulder seams. Come to the next seam that we need to sew, which will be the armholes. We're going to go around those armholes. If you make a wide seam, you're going to have to trim it. So make sure you don't make too wide of a seam on that one, and we'll just not have to worry with that at all when we get done. So use your thinner seams, at least on the armholes, even if you use a thicker one in other places, and it will be good for you. Okay, I have already gone around all the edges of this vest, of all my layers, but I left open the areas that we're going to connect to make our shoulder seams. So this is open, and this is open, and this is open. The next thing we need to do is turn our vest inside out. And the best way to do that is separate the two pieces of material, the front of the vest from the back of the vest, and run your hand up in there. You can get a lot of tools to do this, but this one's so big it's not hard to do. Go all the way to the other side, and then just start pulling it through. And we're going to get all of this pulled through, and then we'll work our shoulder seams up. And it takes a few minutes, but just keep working with it. It's like when the worm goes in the cocoon and comes out as the butterfly. Well, our butterfly is emerging here. We get to see the pretty sides of all the material. Now, we still have a mess here, but we've got one seam here. We'll pull this seam out here. Pull this seam out here. And now we've got this seam. So if we shake it a couple of times, our layers will straighten out, and we're starting to see our vest emerge. Now, I'm going to go to the ironing board and press this where the edge of both are at the edge of the vest, the front and the back materials, where you really won't see either one from the other side. And I'm going to press that really well, and then we'll get back and do some top stitching on it and some quilting. I have my vest layered now. I have the inside, the outside, and it's ironed where it's nice and flat. I love a steam iron. Now I'm going to go along and do some decorative stitching just inside the edges so that it will lay flat. We won't have a problem with that. And we want to do this while it's still open. We don't want to do our shoulder seams yet. Then we're going to make some lines on it and quilt it, because right now it's like a big parachute. All these layers are not connected. So we'll mark some lines on it and quilt it, and then at the last step we will put the shoulder seams together. So we're going to do our decorative stitching next. I have started top stitching around the edge of my vest. I'm going to do the outside edges and then the armhole edges and the neck edge. I want to stitch the same distance from the edge all the way around, making sure that my top layer and my bottom layer come even at the outside edge so that you can't see one from the other side. If you need to use a stiletto, do that. But we're going to go around the whole vest so that it will stay in position and lay pretty. And then we'll start our quilting. Now we have our vest secured at the edges. We have all three layers in place. But we need to know how we're going to quilt it. We have to connect it in some other areas. There are several ways to draw designs on your vest. One is the blue washout marker. Those work very well, but test them on your fabric first. This is a pen or pencil that uses small pieces of chalk, little narrow pieces of chalk, and it comes in different colors, and this is very nice. And if you don't write too hard with it, it comes out pretty easy. Blackboard chalk is another option. Just make light colored lines on it and you can tell. But my favorite that I have recently found, this is called a Hera marker, and it's just a piece of it looks like plastic to me, and it comes to a narrow edge here, and when you put your ruler down and you score along it, it leaves an indentation that you can see, and you don't have to wash out. So this is how I'm going to mark a grid on my vest so that I can sew back and forth and not stop, but be able to quilt my vest. I want you to see a close-up of how this Hera marker works. I'm going to take my ruler, and I have lined up my 60-degree line with the bottom of the vest so that I will know I'm on a 60-degree line. You take your Hera marker, and you're just going to press down on your ruler and score with your marker. And it literally leaves a crease. And if you can see this, it comes right down through here. Then I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to go every 6 inches across my vest and mark, and then I'm going to come back and go halfway between. So my grid is going to be every 3 inches. That's just an easy way that I have found to do it. So I'll line up the left side of my ruler with the line I just made. And you want to come up high enough so that you come to the edge of the vest at the top. And we'll slide our ruler down if we need to later on. I'm going to start way up at the top and just score down. Come on down and finish it out. And I'll finish marking this and then we'll start quilting. I have all my lines drawn on my vest. I drew a grid of diamonds. The lines are every 3 inches apart going in both directions. I'm just about ready to start quilting this vest, but I want to make sure now that none of my layers shift while I'm working with them. We don't want any bunches of fabric or batting in there. So I flattened it out again and made sure all the layers were nice and straight under there. And I am putting a straight pin in the middle of the diamonds that I drew, so they won't be in my way when I sew, but they will hold the layers together. You can use safety pins if you want to, but we're not going to have them in there that long, and we're going to be doing straight seams. So I think it'll be okay with just the straight pins really fast, and just to make sure we have all our layers right. When I finish this, we'll start quilting. I'm ready to start quilting on my vest. I'm going to roll one edge to the center along one of the lines. And then I will insert it under the machine. You want to start right at the stitching line where you did your edge stitching and go down and pull up your bottom thread. I'm using a decorative variegated yellow on the top and a clear thread on the bottom so that it will not show through on the other side, because the other side is mostly blue. So the other side won't show anything. Now I've done a back stitch or two. You can lengthen your stitch length. Since we're quilting, we're not sewing. Now take your hands like an embroidery hoop and kind of spread this out and just go along that Hera marker or your chalk or whatever you have marked it with. Try to keep it fluffed in your lap where it won't have weight pulling on it. And we'll get this thing quilted in short order. When you get to the other end, do not go past that stitching line that you put at the edge of your vest. Take a couple of back stitches and trim your threads and come back and start on your next line. We'll do this on all the lines going one way and then on the lines going the other way. And we'll soon have our vest ready to wear. I'm getting close to the other side now. You want to make sure, use your hands like that embroidery hoop and stretch them wide. You want to make sure all your layers come out even at this edge. Now slow down. When you get to that, take just a couple of back stitches and trim our thread, and we have our first line of stitching done.